Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the NYSOA Summer Educational Series. This is the fourth part of the professional development, rounding out our conversations with Alex Pruce, Ted Uncle, and Mark Katalesic. If you missed any of those sessions, they're available on our YouTube channel, and I will add that link in the chat here shortly, so you can check those out if you haven't yet. Bookmark that page, subscribe, and you'll get alerts when these become posted. We're thrilled to continue to offer these experiences that engage, educate, and inspire our members to be better every game, whenever that time is for us to take the pitch. And with that, we have a really exciting program planned today. As Lance had mentioned in his email, we had a slight change in programming, as Corey Rockwell, as many of you have been watching, is a part of the MLS's back tournament in Orlando. So his schedule has been challenging, and so we may look to bring him in August. But with that, we have Bill Dittmar, who's going to be presenting, managing the technical area with us today. So we are thrilled to have Bill with us, and we'll get more into that. But first, some rules of engagement. So if you're not familiar with using Zoom, there's a few things that you need to know. So we would love for you to be a part of the conversation. While we can't see your video because this is a presentation of sorts, so you don't have to worry about how your hair looks, there are some important things to know. So at the bottom, you'll see a toolbar. You might need to scroll over it to see it. There'll be two things. One is a chat feature, and that should be like kind of right here if I'm pointing at it correctly. So if you click on that chat, you can open it up, and that's where you would engage with other attendees in the chat. And that's kind of a little banter, or you can kind of go back and forth there. That's for general chat. If you have a specific question that you'd like to ask Bill, myself, or Lance, you can use the QA feature, which is just down there at the bottom. You'll see it says QA. Don't chat in the QA. We actually have to dismiss or answer questions one by one individually. So please don't chat in there. If you have a specific question, that's where you would use it. And if you see someone who has a really good question, you're like, hey, that's a great one, I would have asked the same thing, you can actually click on it, and it adds a little bit more weight to the question. So if we see some good questions, we'll bring them in, or myself or Lance will be answering those throughout the presentation. So if you have any specific questions that might arise during the conversation, use that Q&A feature. If you just want to chat and have some good banter, we encourage that as well, but use the chat feature down below, and both myself and Lance will be monitoring the chat as well. There's a couple other features to be aware of. We won't be using polls today, but we might invite a few of you into the conversation. So if we do that, we'll bring you in as a panelist. So it takes a second for the equipment to kind of change over to a panelist, and you'll need to unmute yourself. So if we call your name and say, hey, we're going to bring Lance Van Heidsma, say, for example, into the conversation, Lance would unmute himself, and then we'll bring him in. No, Lance. We'll bring him into the conversation. So be aware that that's something you need to do. You actually need to unmute yourself. So be aware of that as we might bring you into the conversation. The other thing is we'll use the chat feature. Again, that's right here down below. If you click on that, Bill may ask a question, hey, what do you think here or there? And he may ask you to answer via the chat. So go ahead and go in the chat, answer your questions there. He'll give you a few seconds, and then we'll talk about them. Okay, so those are a couple ground rules as far as engagement. We love to bring you guys into conversation, so please be a part of the conversation. Ask questions through the QA, or of course the chat as well. So I'll hand it off to Lance to introduce our amazing instructor today.
All right, Tori, thank you. Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're very excited to have tonight's clinician. And no, we're not talking about you, Corey Rockwell. We're talking about somebody different that also holds a flag and blows a whistle. So there are multiple individuals like that are multi-talented. This person has been a NYSOA member since 1989, which is 31 years. Do you believe that? 31 years. Tori, I don't even think you're 31. So
Barely,
put that in perspective. This individual has held various board positions within VISOA, that's Virginia Intercollegiate Soccer Official Association. He's the current area director of the East Side of Virginia. He officiated in the 2010, 2011, and 2012 NCAA Men's Division I College Cup. He's a 20-year MLS official as an assistant referee, starting in 1996 in the inaugural season until his retirement in 2016. And his career culminated with the 2013 MLS Cup final. Many of you may remember that MLS Cup final because it was like 20 degrees below zero. And the entire crew still wore short sleeves, or at least I think it was the entire crew. The referee that was in charge of that game was, he was very strict on that. And also this individual is a current Pro 2 development AR coach, so he still gives back to the game and provides guidance and education to the next generation of professional referee organization assistant referees. We felt this is the perfect person and the perfect topic to bring in. Many of you have been asking about this topic in our survey forms, which we do read, and we read all of them. And this individual has 35 years of high school soccer coaching experience. So not only is this individual a referee, but also a coach. And that's very important when we talk about these concepts. So NYSOA Nation, please welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Bill Dittmar.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here, everybody. I'm seeing that number go up. We're up to 181, so that's pretty cool. I know we have people from all over the country, so I think this is just an awesome platform. I'm going to do my best to make this fun, interactive. It's going to be one of those topics that most of what we're going to be talking about is the type of guidelines and suggestions on how you, I call it, how do you prepare your strategy for success? And we're going to be looking a lot at proactive things. Of course, we will have some examples of things where you have to react, but I want us to be thinking about that proactive stance. How do we kind of go into the game setting ourselves up and the whole crew and the whole team for success? Thank you, Tori and Lance, for that introduction. For me, I'm just going to get sentimental for a second. I hear that many years and I hear all those things that they say, and really none of the things matter except for all the relationships from all those years. That's what I'm most proud about, and I enjoy the most, is the teamwork and the relationships. I do want to encourage you that that's always and should be, whether you're in this for 30 years or you're in your second year, that's what you should really remember and focus on. And that goes for being in my years at MLS, that's being a high school coach, that's being a college official. And quite frankly, when I look at the opportunities that I have been lucky to have in my career, it all goes back to two things. It goes back to being a college player for 4 years at a D3 school. And it was a D3 school that won basically 5 games in 3 years before my teammates got there. We were all brought in as recruits. Within 4 years, we were 10th in the country. And so that's where the teamwork and the whole camaraderie came in. And then I finished playing, and I was like, well, I needed money. I was starting my own business, and I had reffed high school, and I did some U.S. soccer, but I started doing college. And that was really before we had a lot of pro soccer in this country. We had the A-League back then. Most of you wouldn't even know what that is, but we had a couple leagues back then, especially in the Virginia, North Carolina area, so we're really lucky with that. So my first couple of years, I finished playing in 86. I got invited to a NYSOA camp at Elizabethtown, which was an old tradition, and it was just, I got a scholarship to do it. They were trying to bring in some players into the referee ranks. And I'm going to reference something as we go through the slides, but I was asked to give a clinic back then in 89. And what they asked was, well, you just came off the field, so give us the perspective of the player. So you're going to see that thread throughout my presentation tonight. And I'm going to share a little bit of that. But this goes back a long time. And so that's what I'm going to try to bring to you is the perspective of the player, of the coach, and of the referee. And really, we're all in it together. And too often the coaches think none of us have ever played, and too often we forget what it feels like to be a player. I'm very proud to say at 55, I'm still playing men's league, and it's open men's league. So, I haven't lost that zeal, that passion for the game. So I'm going to try to bring that tonight. So if we could advance the slide there. This is what I started and what I was talking about in the beginning. We want to be looking at this. We hear the term dealing with the technical area. And when I hear that term, I hear it in a negative tone, in a sense. I hear it that it was reactive. It's gotten to a point that we have to deal with it, right? And certainly part of our role is to deal with that. But what can we do to be proactive, right? What can we do? And that's why I like the word managing the technical area, because management for me starts before you even get to the field, right? It starts from when you played. It starts from when you coached. It starts from when you watched Tori on the soccer field yesterday, dealing with a coach, right? She had a little moment yesterday, and that's what managing is all about. It's understanding the game and bringing all that into the game before you even start. So we're going to look at it from that perspective. We're going to try to spend most of our time here in that proactive managing the technical area versus the dealing with the technical area. And we will get to that, but that's where I want our mindset to be. So in preparation for this talk, one of the things that I did was I called a couple of the coaches I know pretty well. And I said, I'm going to be doing a talk for the college referees, and let's just chat. Tell me what you're thinking. And being a high school coach, I feel some of these things, okay? It's different at the college level, the pressure, the money, it's a whole different ballgame, right? The recruiting, everything you have to do. But there are a lot of similarities too. So I put a slide together, the next one here, that's going to show us very typical coaches' misconceptions of us. And let's just take them one at a time. The first one, and I know all of us have heard this at one point or another, is, well, this is my job, this is my livelihood, but this is just a side gig for you, okay? And they don't understand how seriously and how passionately we take this job. So that is a misconception that many coaches have. And quite honestly, I'm not sure we can change that, just like some of these other ones. So we have to understand that if these are perceptions, they are reality in their eyes. So that plays into our ability to manage this. So let's look at the second one. It relates to the first, but basically it's this concept that we make a bad call and we just blow it off. About 4 years ago, I was lucky enough to give a presentation to the MLS officials at the training camp in January. And basically, that talk I put together was about how we deal with major mistakes in games. And I likened it to the 5 stages of grief. And it really, Jeff Agus, who's pretty high up in Major League Soccer, he was there, and he was sitting in the front row. And I basically went through and I said, when we make a mistake, we bring it home, right? And we actually go through these 5 stages of grief. So the first one is basically shock. It was like, I couldn't have missed that, right? It's kind of shock and awe, right? And then we go into anger, because we realize we missed it. We go into anger. And then we go into blame. We look for someone else to blame. If it's not ourselves, but we look, it was someone else's fault. And quickly, or the better we are, we realize it wasn't anyone else's fault. It was our fault. And then we go into acceptance, and then we move on. Okay? And so I was explaining this, and I didn't have to explain it to that group, but certainly for Jeff, he was like, wow. After it, he's like, Bill, I had no idea that you all really took this like that, and that you go through these processes. And then I pulled him aside, and I said, think about it. Say we're an AR, right? We make an offside decision, and if we think we screwed it up, we got to quickly know how to not go through those stages, because we're going to miss the next call, right? So this anger, this blame. So we got to just put it aside and come back. And then we go into the locker room at halftime, and we're like freaking out about it. It's still on our mind. And then we start to get back out there, and we get back into getting our work done. Then we start to go home, and it ruins the night. And then 2 days later, we're about to start get over it. Our family's been hugging us. We're all happy. And then we get the assessment, and now we're back on TV, and it's all back again. So it just amazed Jeff. So I take offense to this one, that when we make a mistake, we just blow it off and move on. The next two, where I really struggle with these, just kind of almost ethically, but they are perceptions. And a lot of college coaches, and some of it has to do with the pressure they're under, but they do feel when they are the away team that they're not going to get a fair shake. And that's really unfortunate, because I really think that is so far from the truth. Okay? I think that's such a very small, if any, problem, but that's a perception that they have. And so think about it. If they're going into the game with that perception already, and then something goes a certain way, they're starting to build their facts to back their hypothesis, right? Oh, see, we're traveling again, we're getting screwed. And that ties into the last one there. There's a perception, I've heard this from a lot of coaches at different levels, there's a perception that certain conferences or even certain states, things like that, get preferential treatment. And, this is a bit of a challenge in our game, right? Because there's a lot of money. We get paid decent money to do what we do. And so there's easily that perception that we're just doing it for the money. And there's that perception that we're afraid to do what we're supposed to do because then we're not going to make that money. So this one, I think we all do have to make sure we fight this one. Okay? You got to do what you're supposed to do. All right? So secondly, the second part of what I got from that conversation with the coaches was these are 4 things that they really can't stand. The very first one I think is probably the most important. It's being ignored, not acknowledged, or blown off. Okay? It ties into number 2. They can't stand arrogance, they can't stand egotists, and they can't stand people who the whole game is about them. The particular coach I was talking about brought up a situation in a game last season where the referee stopped play, and instead of going over and speaking with the coach, he brought the coach out 20 yards on the field and made it all about him and a big showboat thing. And, it was a ridiculous way to handle that situation. So these are 2 things they really, really struggle with. I'm going to come back a lot to number 1. This number 3 is both what I heard from the coaches I spoke to, but this is a personal one for me. As a high school coach, as a referee, as one of you, as one of us, forget one of you, one of us, I do my best to, be the leader on the sideline as a coach. And I expect that from coaches, right? We are the leaders. But where I struggle is 2 places. It's number 3 and number 4 here. Number 3 is when the referee crew is letting the other coach go at them and make all kinds of noise and yell and scream. And basically I tell my players, look, I'll be the one that talks to the referees, you play. And then if they hear this other coach doing it and a couple calls seem to go against us or whatever, they feel like they're not being protected. And that ties into number 4. The other time you will hear me on the touchline is if I feel like they're missing either gamesmanship, because they're not understanding the game and what's going on, or certainly in the safety area, So keep that in mind as we go forward. But these are pretty solid coaches' perspectives. We'll go. Okay, so as a setup to the next part, I think that this is very, very important for us to make sure we all agree with. And that's this concept that we have taken the assignment. So when we've taken the assignment, we need to take on that responsibility, which means we are there to ensure the safety, the fairness, and the enjoyable atmosphere of that game. And that's the last one is the one I want to focus here. Is when it comes to the technical area, I think that there are times that we just kind of put a blind ear to it, right? Because we don't want to get into it and we don't want to address that. And maybe it is in the back of your head that you want to go back to that school again later. Maybe you've been assigned there in September and October and you don't want September to go wrong because you got to be back there in October. That's the wrong attitude, okay? Don't worry about October. Worry about the game that you're on. And when you take that assignment, you take that with the responsibility as a crew that you are going to deal with whatever you have to deal with in the right way, and you're going to do it as a team, and you are going to really basically create a competitive, positive environment, one that's enjoyable. Let's move. So we're going to go to some video clips here. So we'll watch the first one, and I think we'll roll through this. Okay, Doug, let's go to the second clip. We'll go to clip 3, Doug. And clip 4, please. Okay, Doug, if you could go back to clip 1, just put the screenshot up. And in the chat box, I'd like you all to just put a few of the things, a quick phrase, what you saw. Those 4 clips were put on the same slide for a purpose because there's some similarities there. And I just want to see, that you guys have picked up some of those. So let's take 30 seconds. And what did you see? What did you notice? Jim Reuter's in the house. I didn't notice that in the clip. All right, there's 100 and 206 people in here, and I see about 7 comments, so let's do better than that. Nope, you can't see it again. You saw it the first time. Sorry. Okay, so that's about good enough. Now we're getting what I wanted you to focus on. So feel free to put another 2 or 3 in there if you see something that's not in there. But basically, what I'm hoping that you're seeing in this is early signs or things that we should be noticing that are going around outside of the field. I know, and I appreciate you were looking at what was going on the field, so maybe it was a slight trick question, but this was called managing the technical area, so there were little hints in the air, here or there. So if we look at this first one, Doug, let's play it for a minute again, and I'll have you stop. Keep going. Besides the little kick in the ball way there, stop, Doug. Okay, so the first thing is, where are all the players? All right. This nobody's making a problem. It's probably not been a problem all game, but this is the wrong thing that we want to see. And this needs to be dealt with early so that it doesn't become a problem. Let's say that foul happened to happen right next to those players, and if the game's intense, we don't want to see this. Let's go to the second clip, Doug. Okay, you can stop right there. That's all we need, right? Why do we even have the line? All right. Third clip. And Doug, I'm going to ask you to stop now. Okay, and we'll advance it at a couple spots here. But right now, stop. All right, so very common occurrence, right? We got subs for the gray team. And where's the coach? He's up with the 4th official, I guess, helping with the subs, right? So we've already set the example that it's okay for him to be outside the technical area. There's also another big problem with this picture, and I'd love the first one who gets it in the chat box gets a trip to Hawaii. But what else is a problem to the right side of the picture? Thank you. Tori, Ron gets that trip to Hawaii. Okay, send that out to him, please. All right. So look at that bench area, right? We have basically no space for the coaches to be where they're supposed to be, right? And I'm sure that wasn't done by accident. So we're going to come back to that particular clip in a minute. But so this is 2 problems here. And these are the things. I talked about proactive refereeing and proactively knowing and seeing what's going on. So proactive here is 4th official kind of knowing that this coach is kind of mode is to come up and coach his team or prep them to go in. Okay, maybe that's not a terrible thing, but depending upon how the game goes, it could really be something you don't want to deal with. And I have a feeling we might see something later that actually says that that is true. So let's play this one through again, Doug, from where we are. So the coach is going back to where he needs to go, right? But is he going back to where he needs to go? Or is he like me? He still wants to play and coach at the same time, so it's hard for him not to get on the field. You can keep rolling it, Doug. Okay, that's good. We'll see that coach again. All right, and let's go to the last one. This one's real simple, right? We don't have to spend a lot of time here. Stop there, Doug. How is the AR supposed to do their job with the ring around the rosy warm-up that's going on right behind him or her? That can't happen, okay? Especially me being an AR many of those years, you know, that's so distracting to have all that activity right behind you. So this is something that as a team, you know, the fourth official needs to be dealing with this, and if needed, the referee needs to help it. But it also should be dealt with before the game. So, thank you. So here's what I'm going to call, this is going to be our game plan, right? This is our 4 pillars of our success strategy. I referenced our success strategy earlier. Try to say that 3 or 4 times fast. But this is how I kind of look at this, right? It's got 4 components. The first is your homework and your pregame. I hit this a little bit earlier, but your homework and pregame, we're going to go into a slide. We'll talk about these things. The second is your appearance and your soccer understanding, right? Like it or not, your appearance, your body language, your fitness, all these things play a huge role in whether you're going to be accepted and successful on the field or not. So, you know, this is a little tough time for all of us, right? Because we've had this COVID and we're off our routines and, you know, we got the season coming up really quick. So, you know, if you haven't really started your training already, you need to get that going. I know, you know, that we have made some of the, you guys say hi to Jericho. There you go, buddy. Sorry. This is real life video calls. Here we go. So back to fitness. We are running fitness tests in Virginia. We just ran 2 of our 4 regions. We are doing it with the COVID guidelines, and you know we're working through that. But we just felt like, you know, we wanted to maintain and keep people thinking about that. We're in different parts of the country, right? Right now, Virginia is doing pretty good. There's parts, and I know we got people on this call where maybe things aren't so good. So I just want you to really just keep working your training and your fitness on your own, because as I said, your appearance really has a lot to do with being successful at what we're going to talk about the rest of tonight. The third one is really life skills. Like I like to call it human relation skills, right? But it's life skills, it's life experience, and this is a really sad stat. Years ago, I took, most of you probably don't even know who Dale Carnegie training is, but Dale Carnegie training is something I'd recommend you look up. It's all about people. The famous book by Dale Carnegie was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And they have a golden book, and this golden book has all these truths. And it's just incredible. So look that up. It's Dale Carnegie Training Golden Book. You can get one free. Maybe, Lance, you can get a link to that on there. But it's simple phrases that make a huge difference in people. And so when I took those classes a few years ago, one of the stats that the professor said was only 7 to 10% of the population will spend a dime of outside education or training unless work or school makes them do it. All right? And that's a sad figure. But I must have that top 10% because we got 209 people on this call, and you are here investing in your future. So don't let that just be tonight, right? Make this part of your lifestyle. Anything you can do, anything you can read to learn about people is going to help you on the soccer field. And then we're going to get in and we're going to kind of close it out with strategies for this, you know, basically for the game. So let's go ahead.
Bill, may I add something here?
Of course.
To your Steelers, because I'm a firm believer of making a plan and having a plan. And this year especially, everybody needs a plan. we're not going to have the luxury in many of our conferences of having a fourth official to deal with the technical areas. So we really have to, even if you're an assistant referee or the referee, or you're running a dual system, which there will be some games that have a dual system this year, there needs to be a game plan of how the technical area needs to be addressed and who's going to address it. And it starts in the pregame, because you can't walk on the field and then start discussing, well, this coach, I'm going to have to deal with them, so let's plan it. It has to be, if you don't plan, you plan to fail.
Thank you, Lance. It's almost like you looked at my notes, because the next thing I had on my paper was many conferences have already done away with fourth officials this year, right? So we're already losing one of our key members, right? Especially for this topic, right? So Lance, you hit it spot on. Is that's the next thing I wanted to go to. So let's take a look at this slide, right? I talked a lot about number one there, so I won't spend much there, but it is about communication. It's understanding what your body language is projecting. It's look at that smile from Tori. That smile is disarming, right? Right now, if I was a coach and she's doing that, I'm all good. We're good. So, and then that stash by Lance, that's part of that demeanor. You know, I'm a little bit intimidated by him right now. So, you know, your body language is huge, and we can never master that, right? We can't master any of the things here. I like to say that refereeing is a craft, and a craft is something you constantly work at and try to get better at, but you never master it, right? So everything on that list there, leadership skills, conflict management, emotional self-control, salesmanship, it's everything we do and we need to be successful on the field. So I like to use this triangle. I call it on the right there, the referee success triangle. And so that triangle is made up of three different things, right? Techniques, tools, and tactics. One of our tools was just taken away, was our fourth official. What are our tactics going to be now that we don't have a fourth official there, right? And then what techniques can we use pre-game, during game, post-game, you know, to get better and manage this? We already talked about the fitness part, so we don't need to go there. The only point I did want to make is there's probably going to be less games this year, right? And with less games means if we're not doing our homework, we're not being at the top of our game, we're not fit, we may not be the one who gets called. All right? So, you know, let's get that knocked out. And then your knowledge, your experience in soccer understanding. That's not something you're going to gain in a week or right before the season. You know, this is a lifelong journey. For some of us who've been at it for 31 years, I still got a ton to learn. And I hope to be learning for another 50 years, right? So, you know, don't take that for granted. And I use two things here, building your mental muscle memory and building and training your gut. Because I don't know what the percentages are. I'm not scientific enough to know this, but what I do know is there's a certain percentage of the calls I made in my career, both as a referee in college or an assistant referee in major league or different levels, that thank God for my gut, because I really didn't have enough of the info. I didn't have all the info, and I had to rely on my soccer gut. And so that's something you got to train, and that comes with playing and watching Tori ref yesterday and everything else. All right, so let's get into pre-match. I'm just going to tell you what I do, and then I'm going to ask one or two people from the call to give me what they got. So for me, I really don't, in the college game, it's different than the professional game, but in the college game, we see a lot of different people, and we don't get to know all the players. We do over the seasons, but we don't in any particular one year. Whereas in the professional game, we know every player's name. We know their names, and we know pretty much everything about them. Okay, but it's easy. We got 24 teams or 12 teams or whatever that is. College, there's 500-600. So what do I focus on? I do go to the website, and I look up the coaches' bios. Because to me, I want to know where they played. I want to know what position they played. I want to know something about them so that I can, when I have to, can manage them with some of that knowledge. Okay? And it's not to be like, oh, yeah, I went to that school too and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about knowledge you put in the back of your head and you don't bring out, and you don't even let them know you know it, but you use it in determining how you're going to deal with them. Okay. So I read not just the head coach, but I read the assistant coach bios. Because quite often the people we have to deal with in the college game is the assistant coaches. All right. So those are two things I do. Understand the stakes, pressures, and the situation. That I do and don't do. And I say it that way because for me, every game is different. The moment I step out on that field, I got to read that game from that moment I step out there. And that's when I get there and I watch the teams warming up. I watch the teams to see who's leading the warm up. I watch the kind of demeanor. So although I do, how do you not get a NCAA game and not know it's Duke against this school and blah blah blah? Yeah, you know that. But for me, I don't get too wrapped up in that because I feel like on any given day, it's a whole new situation. And then call other referees. Do that a lot. The longer you're going to be in this business, the longer you're going to succeed in this business, it's going to be partially due to the network that you build up. So we had a pre-call yesterday, the four of us, Doug and Lana, five of us actually, and I've worked with Lance, I've worked with Tori, I've worked with I haven't worked with Lana, but I've worked with the other three. So this is that network. Hopefully tonight you're gonna say that was a really good call. Well, it wasn't Bill. It was a team of 5 or 6 people, and it was a network and a trust and a relationship that we have for more years than Tori's been alive, probably. Right? So, all right. So pregame led by the ref. But here's where I wanted to jump off. So, do we have Jeff Guntark in the house? And if we don't,
yes,
Jeff.
I see Jeff on the call.
So can we bring Jeff in and see what I missed? Or what's Jeff's approach to the game? Getting ready, the pre-match homework, what he's done for the years, what he mentors and teaches people to do.
Yes, you've got to unmute yourself. You are in.
Doug, music, please.
For those ever curious, here's the verbal judo book.
Yes.
I went and got my props. I have it here. It's by my bedside. I read it.
Absolutely. We had the guy who wrote that come speak to us at national camp 10 or 15 years
guy
ago.
who wrote this book come speak to us.
I'll tell you what, if you ever get a chance to have Howard speak, we had him speak on Saturday in Virginia, and he blew us away. He's a fantastic speaker, and he's just a wonderful human being. We also had Mark Geiger. He's the other one. We're going to talk about Mark later, though. So it doesn't look like Jeff's going to join us. Is there anybody else? Maybe?
Yes, we're gonna bring in another special guest.
Okay.
That we're working on right now.
Okay. So I can go ahead, and when you're ready to bring them in, we'll bring them in. Okay. So with regards to the next step.
Okay, Bill, he's in.
All right.
Special guest.
Go ahead.
Dr. Joe?
Yes, sir. I'm here. How are you?
Good. How are you, Dr. Joe?
Good. Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Joe.
I'm enjoying Bill Dittmar's presentation. I remember Bill from the days when I was working in Major League Soccer. He was always a dedicated official and a student of the game.
Thank you, Joe.
You're most welcome.
So, Joe, you bring, I know a lot about your background too. So you bring a lot of perspective to this talk. You bring certainly the coaching, all the years that you coached the camps. I don't know if you even know, but I grew up in Jersey, and you had a lot of your camps way up there, and my brother went to some, and etc. But, Joe brings a lot here. So, Joe, you can comment on anything you want here. It's the perspective of the coaches, those, if you saw the beginning, the things that I said that they perceive. And then also where we were right now was, what do you suggest that we do as pre-game homework to help us succeed?
I love the use of your words, fair shake, which was early in your presentation. And something that I've used throughout my career, because one of the things that I always wanted to work on was not only the visiting team leaves the field at the end of the game thinking they got a fair shake, but also the losing team. And that's very, very difficult to do. But, sometimes the home team seems to always get an advantage, certainly in the professional game. But when the losing team and the visiting team feels they can they've ended the game with a fair shake, that's a really great accomplishment on the part of the referee. And it's something that the referee needs to be always working for. The technical area is so difficult in college soccer, and this is a NYSOA presentation and clinic. I mean, the example of on the sideline of what looked to be 15 players warming up behind the assistant referee. I mean, all 15 players should not be allowed to warm up at the same time. I mean, the coach should have some feeling of which players are possible substitutes in the game. It just becomes a circus. That's some of the things that are allowed in the college game on the sideline. And I mean, the coaches play such a big role in the other sports, football, basketball, baseball. They're allowed to roam the sidelines, come out and talk to the referee, abuse the referee, and therefore the soccer coaches also think they can do it in college soccer. It should not be allowed. We're far too lenient and far too permissive, and they just have to be put in their place. And when I was a coach, I probably was one of the more difficult ones for the referee to handle, but I certainly did not allow it when I was a referee.
So Joe, I think, and Tori, I'll let you jump in as well. I think we have a great opportunity right now with COVID, right? I'm a firm believer in business, life, everything. We got to find that opportunity, right? So we have an opportunity now because there's certainly going to be NCAA mandated social distancing and things like that going on. I think we finally have an opportunity to make a stand as college soccer and start to use this to set a new precedent, to change the way we've let it go for all these years. Because I agree with you 100%. It's out of control and it's inconsistent, right? So I see that opportunity. Tori, did you want to jump in?
I did. So we have a question from the audience.
Okay.
And I think Dr. Joe would be a fabulous person to ask this to, being an assigner as well. So he's got the coach brain, the assigner brain, the referee brain. It's the perfect hybrid. So Dr. Joe, we have a question from Phil Watson, and he asks, how do you reconcile applying technical area rules with wanting to be invited back to referee at that school?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a problem which has plagued college soccer for as long as I have been involved in it. And I think I was in Elizabethtown in sometime 1970. But it's a shame that the coaches seem to have so much control and influence over some assigners. But at the same token, as a referee, you really don't want to go to a situation where you're not welcome, and you need to sense that as well. I don't think there's too many instances of referees turning down games either. But when you've had a game and there's been difficult situations and maybe you've impact the final outcome of a game one year, maybe you need to stay away. As a referee, you need to choose your games, and make it easier, because you're not always welcome back at a given institution when you incorrectly influence the outcome of a game, as happens when you make a mistake, and we've all agreed that referees do make mistakes. So you got to be cognizant of that as well as a referee. But the coaches have had far too much influence on assigners, but the coaches and the games and the colleges, they're the customer of the assigner, and the assigner wants to have the customer feel pleased. So there are assigners that do cater to the whims of certain coaches, and it's really unfair. It is what it is, but assigners want to make their life happy as well.
Yep. So I'm looking at the chat box, and there's two things I'd like to address here. One, Bob, we're going to get to that point. The fact that we probably won't have fourth officials, I'm going to work on that in our next couple of slides. I certainly, as Joe said, we've all been around the game a lot, and there's so many great things about the college game, and there's some challenges about the college game, and so kind of back to my original slide. Let's constantly try to look at it from a proactive standpoint and see how we can fix these things. And I do think COVID gives us an opportunity to really start to change some of that, not just in soccer, but in our lives, right? So the other comment I got to see in the chat box that I kind of wanted to address was from Sean. Great point. Nowadays, when Joe and I were reffing, we never saw games on TV. Nowadays, there's games on TV, college games. There's the games that we're reffing are on TV. So it's an excellent opportunity to do some of that pre-game, pre-match homework. I would like to I'd like to actually move us to because I'm a little concerned about my time here. I'd like to move us to the next slide here, Doug.
Can we say thanks to Dr. Joe for
Dr.
joining?
Joe, thank you very much.
Let me just say before you sign me off is that, the athletic directors and the conference assigners, the conference commissioners, they want better decorum in the technical area and the coaches in the coaching area, as it's called in NCAA. So you're not alone by yourselves as referees trying to enforce this. And hopefully we are not going to be the enforcers of whatever COVID protocol take place. That's going to be up to the conference commissioners, the athletic directors, the coaches themselves. Some people besides the referees have to take responsibility.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. Lance and I were chatting about that before the call. And we actually said the exact same thing. He's like, yeah, we can't be dealing with that. We already got enough on our plate. So thank you very much, Joe. Feel free to jump in again.
See you, Dr. Joe.
Dr. Joe.
All right. So here's where you interact a little bit. And this is where we can have a little bit of fun. I would like you to put in the chat box a caption for this picture. There's one that comes to my mind immediately. I'm not going to share it until the end, but I want to see what you got to think. Greg, I love it. It's very much around what I was thinking. Who says, thank you very much, Dr. Joe, about this picture? I don't get that one. Yep, certainly for our day, it's definitely a little bit close. No social distance in there. What did you see? Thank you for doing an outstanding job. I do like, okay, coach, I understand that goes back to what I was saying. Jim, that's not nice. I know, we all know Grady, and I probably will call him up and tell him I agree what he said, what you said. All right, so that's fantastic, right? I'm just going to pull a few of those off. So, for me, my first thought is, can I have a hug from the coach? And Rick Grady's saying, no, I'm married. Okay. So I think Rich handled this really well. I mean, I think she's appealing for his good looks, and he was just going to keep himself, away from that. So, but here's the point of this. We have four different pictures, and I'm going to have you do the same thing with each. Pictures are moments in time, and people make judgments off of moments in time. So this goes back to that early conversation about understanding your body language, being aware of your surroundings, being aware that sometimes, they might know each other from years. Rich has been around reffing, that coach has probably been around, and, they could be good friends. But when we are in our uniform and we're out on that field, we have to be so cognizant of everything that we do, the way we look, the closeness we get, etc. And I think that picture, I think he's fine with that picture, because he's got the professional, the hands are down, and it's like, yeah, he's being friendly, but he's not, engaging, and she looks like she wants to give him a hug. So, coaches most of the time wouldn't be doing this on purpose to set you up, but there are times that we get set up. And so you got to be careful of that. All right, next slide, Doug. All right. I would like in the chat box 3 words that you read from the body language of either the coach or of Carmen. Fantastic. Okay, you can keep putting them in because we're going to copy this chat box, and I want to look at all these when I get a chance later on. But a couple of you hit it. To me, you nailed it. The first word I saw was calm. Then I saw concern. And then I heard basically someone knew it was Bo Ashani. And, if you do your homework, if you do that study that I told you before, Bo was a goalkeeper in MLS. He was a great guy. He was a great goalkeeper. And he's a great coach. I've had the chance to ref him over the last couple of years. He is a reasonable person. Okay, he's someone that is not at a big name conference, right? And he's not going to get the best players in the country, but he's going to turn his team into a really well-respected and a good team. And so we have a lot of great college coaches like that do an incredible job. And these are the majority of the ones we work with, right? So we got to respect that. And to me, Carmen knows that. Carmen is a well-versed, well-known official. He reads people, body language really well. So to me, I go back to some of the sales training I had, and the first thing I see in this picture is I see mirrored body language, right? In sales, part of the training is to keep people comfortable, right? And part of the way you keep people comfortable is you mirror some of their body language. And that's an important skill for us as referees. We always got to stay at this calm level, but there's tools like that. So to me, that when I first saw this, I'm like, I got to use that, because some people are going to look at this and say, that doesn't look good for this reason or another. But I think the real essence of this picture is, to me, it looks great, because Bo Ashani is someone that if you're reasonable to him, he's going to be reasonable to you. And even if he disagrees, that type of body language, that type of handling him is fantastic. So you did a great job. Like I said, some of you basically might disagree, and that's all okay. Still pictures don't give us the before and the after. But what they do is give us that moment in time. All right, so thank you, Doug. This goes back to that early college talk that I told you I gave. The simple part of it was, when I explained it, I said, I looked at my team, and every team has A, B, and C players. The C player is the true leader, not necessarily the captain, but the true leader. And the A player is that often, sorry, Dr. Joe, sorry, Bo, but often that goalkeeper or that striker that's impossible to deal with. And then the majority of players on my team were B players. Pretty much, they just want to be protected. They want to be, feel like it's fair. So if you take and look at the game that way, the A players, you got to figure them out as quick as possible, and the C players, you got to figure them out as quick as possible. And if the B players are all screaming at you, if you got all the B players screaming at you, you probably aren't doing a good job, and you got to readjust what you guys and gals are doing on the field. But the way you deal with the A, simply put, I thought about how did we deal with our guys. The best people to deal with the A is the teammates. It's the C. Find the true leader, the one who runs the training in the beginning, someone who's picking people up, and get the C to deal with the A. Because otherwise you're dealing with the A with a yellow or a red card usually. All right? So I think this concept applies to the coaches. Okay? When you look at the makeup of coaching staffs, you have, like we had in my college, you have different roles for each of the different coaches. And it's not consistent. You can't say it's this way with every school. Maybe the coach is really calm and really mellow, and then he might have this nightmare assistant. And maybe that assistant isn't even that way, but that's his role. So I want us to make sure we understand that everybody plays a role in this mix. On the other side, the referee team, we got the referee, the ARs, and the fourth official. As you all know, we have defined roles, but then we all create this master mix or potion. And hopefully by good teamwork and good pre-games, we build a good potion that works on this game. So let's go ahead one, Doug. All right. So then in this technical area business here, we basically got 3 triangles we got to deal with, right? We got the head coach, we got the players, and we got the assistant coaches. So I'm not going to get too deep on this except from the standpoint is I just want you to understand you can't do the same thing the same way each time with the same different people. You have to read what's going on and you have to approach it individually because each brings 3 parts to the table here. They bring what their assigned role is or what they perceive their assigned role is. They bring their own passion and and their passion and their knowledge of the game, etc. And they bring their own personality. So I mainly want you to get out of these couple slides is that this is a pretty dynamic picture. And it's all the things I told you earlier about human relation skills and conflict management and knowing the game that are going to make you successful here. Let's go ahead, Doug. All right. Does this appear to be going well or not? I'm not going to ask you to answer it because when we were prepping for this, I said I wanted a few good soccer pictures, and Tori pulled this up. So that is me at an NCAA game. I think it was 2 years ago, and it was the coach on the left was the visiting coach, and this was about 10 minutes into the game already. So he was the underdog, they were the underdog, and basically they felt that they had to make sure that I knew, or we as a crew knew they were there, and that they had that perception they were going to get screwed. So I came over early. You notice it's not just the coach. I have the whole team, the whole coaching staff there, right? And this happened about 10 minutes in. It was actually a decent conversation. I was firm, but I basically set the stage of how we weren't going to go this way for another 80 or 90 minutes. And the game wound up going out pretty well. So you could have put it wasn't going well, but it turned out well. Doug, let's go ahead. Okay. And then finally, our team here, don't have to go into the slide much, but it's the same dynamics, right? We got the referee that has a different personality. We bring different things to the game. We got the fourth official, and we got the 2 assistant referees. And so it's managing all this. Doug, let's go. All right, one word in the chat box that describes the AR and then the referee. The body language of the 2. So you can put like the word, comma, and the next word. Yep, I kind of see you're gone. Yeah, we got ask and tell. Very good. Who was that? I like that. Maynard, thank you. Yeah. Empathy no more. Yep. And it's fine, because the one who has the position power, which is the referee, is making the final decision, and the AR is trying to be the good cop. But at that point, the coach has gone too long. So fantastic. Like I said, I look forward to reading those in the chat box after. Hey, Doug, can we go next slide? All right. This slide is simply to show you the complexity of what we're dealing with. Okay? We got the coaching side with the whole team. We got 2 of those that bring a whole bunch of different complexity in. And then we got our side where we're 4 or 3 different individuals, and we're trying to mix and match all this together. So the only way I believe we can do that is back to the early slides where we are doing our pregame. We look fit. We know the laws of the game. We work as a team. The referee team has to work as a team. We have some pre-planned ways we're going to talk and get each other's attention. So this slide itself, once again, this could be its own presentation. Let's go again, Doug. All right, so kind of recapping all this. These are preventative tactics and strategies I believe you can take into your games, not just college, but any games you're going to do. The first one is probably the most important, and it goes back to one of the early things that coach had shared is they hate to be ignored. They hate to be basically not acknowledged. So visual acknowledgement is very, very important. There's times we can do verbal acknowledgement, but visual acknowledgement, a smile, a nod, I hear you, coach, without saying I hear you, coach. And I would suggest you build this into your strategy as a referee, as an AR, as a fourth. Pick the right times. And, if a coach is being stupid, no, not the time to give them the visual acknowledgement unless you have to deal with it. But when you have a 50-50 play and the coach is complaining, and if you were coaching, you'd actually be complaining too because it's 50-50, this is the time to make the call, be firm with your decision, but then, as play goes on, I got you, coach. A little thumbs up, I hear you. A head nod goes a long, long way. Good cop, bad cop strategy with the fourth and the AR. We do this. I'm going to use a couple examples. Many of us are using comms. Actually, if Corey was here, we'd be hearing more about that tonight, but he's not here. So we are using comms, right? I got Tori to smile on that one. That's pretty cool. I love that smile, Tori. Oh, okay. But use of comms, right? And note what I have in the parentheses, for real or for show, right? How many times have we, as the fourth, didn't click on the button, so the ref's not hearing a darn thing, and the coach is trying to say something. You're like, oh yeah, he heard you, right? So know your tools, use your tools, right? Or how many times as an AR might you say, yeah, I told him, coach, and you didn't because you didn't want to disrupt the referee or you didn't agree, but it's to get things to calm down. So know your tools and use them. Ask, tell, remove, official warning, caution, remove. The new IFAB changes are not directly related to the college in this way. I think in college we almost have like a 4-step process. We kind of have an ask and then a tell and then a remove. So, we have a little bit more tolerance in the college game, but that doesn't mean you let people do what they're not supposed to do. All right. The flyby warning is a great strategy. AR can say, hey, I need you over here. It's something you talk about before the game. Hey, if you need me over here, I'll fly by and I'll just tell them that's a warning. And then just a little advice, the coaches by law, by rules, are not allowed to come out to us at halftime. One of the strategies that I've always found effective was to basically say, coach, I'll talk with you after the 15-minute interval, and I'll give them a few seconds. If I initiate it, it's okay. But never let them come out to you onto the field at halftime. One, they're not allowed to, and you're supposed to do something about it. But two, just that's not a good time. Delay it and then give them the respect. The next big technique is dealing with player management and conflict. 5 steps. Use your fingers, right? The pinky finger. Recognize and catalog it. This is where you just are paying attention, either as an AR or the fourth or ref, and you're cataloging it in your head that I got to either maybe address that later, I got to deal with it. Number 2 is the quiet word to 1. So this works with a player. It often works with a coach, assistant coach, anybody who needs a quiet word. Then you have the quiet word for 2. This is usually when you have 2 people going at it. So this would more apply to 2 players on the field that nobody really saw it, but you saw it and you want to get to them. The 4th one, I think, is the one that we don't teach and we don't use enough. And that's dealing with those in the vicinity that see it, but not making it big enough that you now have brought attention to something that other people may not have even noticed. And then the 5th is when we go public, right? We have various ways to go public. Doug? All right, this one is a presentation all in itself. I just mainly wanted to bring it up so you could all do some of your own research. It's called transactional analysis. It talks about anytime you have 2 people in a transaction, in a conversation, you have a transaction going on. And we all have different ego states. We have adult, nurturing parent, we have controlling parent, and we have various states you see there for the child. Conversations go in and out of all these different states. So when you learn about this will really help you manage conversations better. So it's called transactional analysis, and at some point maybe I'll create a whole presentation and share this with you if they invite me back. Well, Tori's still smiling, so no. Okay, there we go. All right, let's hit this clip, Doug. We're not really going to go through each of these because I want to get through the presentation, but the few things I want you to see is look where the coach is. Coach is all the ways out on the field, and then now he's basically going at the referee. We have all those players that came on the field from the far bench. The poor fourth official, I mean, he couldn't do much about that. But, for me, just we can't let this happen, right? And I'm sure if those players got out on the field that quick, I'm pretty sure they were all standing up and cheering and screaming. And for me personally, the coach is out on the field that far. For me, the yellow card wouldn't have been the choice. Next clip. Body language of the coach. There's a whole stands behind them, right? And that body language is noticed by everyone. Okay, fourth official doesn't overreact. Okay, we're going to keep going. We've got a couple clips, and then we're coming back to that last one that we just saw. Hey. And Doug, we're going to skip that clip that just has the sound. But obviously, this crossed the line. And I like how the referee dealt with it. If that's the coach, I don't appreciate him going down towards the AR, but maybe the technical area was already extended like it will be for this year. All right, let's roll. Here we go again. Not surprised the cameraman's getting ready to take a picture. So for me, this body language is getting to the realm of being abusive. Maybe not to the red card realm using the word abusive, but it's not acceptable, right? So something needs to be done there. And him coming up every 10 calls, every 5 minutes. Keep rolling, Doug. Got to be very careful there, especially with a coach like this. There are coaches that you could put your hand around a little bit and pat and this and that, but this is not one of those coaches. And he's a fantastic coach, and he's actually a great guy, but on the field he's very difficult to manage. And so you have to know that going in. And then I feel sorry for the fourth official here because I just have a feeling that they all as a team did not really address how this was going to be handled because this continues. Keep going, Doug.
Absolutely, Bill. And if I can make a comment here as well. The coaches that are my friends off the field, a lot of them have, and some of them are difficult on the field. And I've asked them, why are you so difficult? Why do you give referees such a hard time? And the first thing they tell me is, well, we want to know where the line is drawn.
Yeah.
So they want to know where the line is drawn. And if the referee, assistant referee, fourth official don't draw that line, they're going to continue to push. Now, that does not mean go look for trouble or draw that line too early on minimal things, but you need to be firm but fair. And I don't mean to hijack this clip because this is a great clip right here too.
Yeah. No, but Lance, I mean, you're spot on. And the other, I've asked the same question, and years ago, Dr. Joe was actually there. We asked Landon Donovan why, they act the way they do. And the simple answer was because you let us, right? It was at camp. And it was because we let them, So I think Lance's point is perfect for this. We don't want to be overreactive. And we want to do all the things we've talked about, right, earlier. But we have to draw the line, and we have to show them where that line is. And that's going to be actually the title of our next 4 clips after this one. I'd like, Doug, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'd like you to go back to that last clip because that one's, just play this one again. So this is the other coach in that game, and watch the body language. Oh, whatever. right? So 6 clips we had of Sasha being catered to and controlled and everything from the fourth official, trying to do the best he can, right? And then he gets to this coach. It's probably this is what I said earlier. When the other coach is screaming and yelling, at a certain point, my players expect me to say something. Let's not reward the bad coach and take this away from the good coach, right? So I think for these clips, when I saw this, I'm like, this is perfect, right? We can't do this to the other coach, right? And at this point, he's like, whatever. I know we're going to get screwed, whatever. And he's the home team, apparently, on this one. All right, Doug, let's roll to those last 4. So I told you we would get back to this one. This is one of those games I think we saw a clip from earlier. If not, this is the clip where people are up, and if you see the whole bunch of clips here, we can't have coaches going at it like this. Doesn't seem like we have a fourth official on this game, so the AR's really got his hands full, right? And he's proactively working it. All right, next clip, Doug. I think this is the one we're going to skip. Yep, let's go to this one. Okay, so a lot going on in here. Just a couple things I just wanted to point out on this is what was happening before all this, right? We're pretty. We had a lot of ticky-tack stuff, a lot of good keep away almost of both teams. Players were getting frustrated, but you could start to see the coaches build and build and build and build, and then we get that flashpoint moment. And I don't know much about this game, but I like how the referee handled that.
Yeah, Bill. And just to add to that too is our NYSOA stimulus quizzes. Those of you that go on to NYSOA.com and have been downloading the weekly stimulus answer keys and analysis that goes with each video clip for 8 weeks, we have clips that fouls occur in front of that technical area, the bench area, the coaching areas. And we have a term we've been using that we have borrowed from CONCACAF called the free zone. And the free zone is that area that's in front of both benches that typically players think they have the freedom to commit fouls or lose their mind. So that area of the field, as a referee and as an assistant referee and fourth official, you have to have a heightened sense of awareness, because as the clip Bill just showed, there was a lot going on that was building up that, as Bill said, we weren't even at that game, and we could have told you something's going to happen. And when something happens, the coaches are right there to complain. So you really, really, really have to diffuse that and really work hard to make sure that you're preventative in there as well.
Fantastic, Lance. Thank you. Thanks for interjecting that. Yep. It was like keep away by one team, then keep away by the other, and then it just kept going. This is the last clip here. So look where we are in the field. Look at the reactions. For me, not enough urgency. We need to get there really a lot quicker. The coach being out on the field like that needs to be dealt with. And I have a feeling he might be. So, he keeps carrying on. You got to look at the bottom of the screen. He's going at the fourth official. Referee actually, although I would like him to have gotten there quicker, he actually did get this calmed down pretty well. But then I appreciate this from this referee because you know what? This has gone on a little bit too much, and he comes over and this is a big time coach. It's a big time game. And in my opinion, this referee really supports his crew because he could have very easily just talked and backed out there. But at a certain point, I don't think he was coming over until either his AR or his fourth called him over. And so I, as an AR in this case, I really appreciate this. So that's a great one to kind of end with in terms of our college clips.
Can I add something here?
Yes, please, Tori.
So we have the tool of the yellow card, and I'll ask this kind of rhetorically, but how many of us have given a yellow card and then seen the coach's behavior get modified as a result of that yellow card? But for some reason, we wait too long and we take too much and we endure too much before we give that first yellow card. Don't be afraid to set that boundary early. I've had a few instances when I've given a yellow card in the first 20 minutes of a game, and that coach modifies his behavior. I haven't yet sent off a coach in college. However, I have given a handful of yellow cards and they've all worked out really well. That is a management tool for us, but we can't hide and not use it. And I guarantee you this coach after this, I'm sure modified his behavior. So let's have the courage to use the tools that are given to us to help modify the behavior of the benches. Because a lot of these clips that we saw, and we might be laughing and this or that about these, but these are unacceptable. And we have a role of making this better, not just for us, but for all the referees that come after us.
Excellent, Tori. And I think, over my career, that's actually, I think that's something we grow to, honestly, if we're taught right and if we're smart enough to really learn those lessons. If that behavior starts in the first 5 minutes, what makes you think it's going to get less for the next 85? So I'm very, very keen, and I'm not talking about carding in the first 30 seconds, minute, this and that, but I'm very aware, and in my pregame, I am telling the crew, look, this is the stuff I expect. If you go back, I don't want you to go back, Doug, but if you go back to my early slides, one of the things that I said in there was the expectations of the referee shared with the expectations of the referee team, right? So you are the leader in this particular game, and the next game, it might be your teammates, the referee. I do love that about college. I mean, I do love to referee and be an assistant referee. So in college, we get to do a lot of that, right? So whoever's in charge that day needs to share the expectations and set the level and show where the line is. Not we go out to the field and we figure out the line. Share it with your teammates before the game to come to some kind of consensus. Then react to the game that you're given. And so if I get a coach screaming at me, that one picture I did show was 10 minutes in or so, I wasn't going to change. And Tori just nailed it. Modify the behavior with whatever tools you have before we have to give the red cards. Don't let it get too far. All right, so I'd like to kind of end this with, I get a little even emotional about this clip. Mark Geiger is a great friend of all of ours, and he's my wife calls him like our son, because when he first came in the league, I was in for a few years, and he's just, to me, he's the perfect example of what a referee should be. He's humble, he's passionate, he's super good at everything he does. And we had him do 2 presentations this weekend, and every time I hear him, I'm amazed. So this clip gives me goosebumps because for me, it takes everything we talked about tonight and puts it into one 24 or 30-second clip. And so I'm going to stop. And we're going to have sound on this one, Doug, right? This is in the World Cup in Russia, right? Incredibly passionate, hard game. And Doug, can we roll this clip?
Both holding each other. I can't call a foul.
Go on. Play it.
Listen to me. Come to me, please. Finish. Watch the gestures. Watch the comments. Keep it professional, okay? I want to keep you here. Just keep it professional. Over there, both players are holding. Both players are holding on that one.
Okay, Doug, if you could take it back to the moment that Mark is talking to the fourth. Okay, so, if you remember this game from the World Cup, this was a very chippy game. This was a very challenging game. And just like in that last clip, the fourth official, had to bring him over. So you can stop it there for a second, Doug. So one of the things I asked Mark after I saw this was like, did you know what you were going to say before you got over there? That was brilliant. The order, everything you did. And he's like, I didn't have a clue. It's he got the information and he had less than a couple seconds to put this small, couple things together to try to get a change in behavior. So, okay, that's great. Now let's take it to where he first starts to talk. I'll tell you where to stop it, Doug. Okay, stop there. All right. So a couple good things there. So he has about 2 seconds, right, to figure this out, what he's going to say. And this coach looks a little pissed at this point, and the coach has no problem getting right in his face, and he has no problem not backing down. But he does great body language, right? The hands go behind his back. He slows up his movement towards the coach. And although they're not socially distanced, as we know it today, he really puts himself in a good place to have a private one-on-one conversation with the coach. And you may not have heard it, so I wrote it down. The first thing he says is watch your gestures. Watch your comments and keep it professional. So I put those three into this. He basically set the ground rules, just like Tori did before we started the talk tonight, right? She gave us ground rules. He came over here in 3 succinct statements, set the ground rules of this is what's not acceptable and this is what cannot continue to go on. Then this is, to me, the brilliance. The next thing he says is, I want to keep you here. And that's the brilliance, because he set the ground rules, but now he humanized this conversation. He made it that, you know what, coach, you do matter. And you are important, and we want you here, and I want to keep you here. So to me, that was the brilliant part in this. And you're doing a great job, Doug, because you see the coach when he's getting you can't do this, he's looking down, he's not giving him eye contact. It's the same player that goes to grab their shin guards and pull up the socks when you're trying to have a word with them, right? They're looking down. So this goes on, and then Mark humanizes the conversation. It's at 23 to 25 seconds. He says, I want to keep you here. And that's when the coach looks up, his demeanor changes. Now the next step in this process, and this is what we're going to try to leave you with, is the 3 or 4 steps you do that you go into your game when you're in this situation. The last part of this process, back up one more second, Doug. You were perfect for a sec. He closes the conversation. As soon as he gets that coach to look up and acknowledge that he's heard him, he starts to back out, and he chooses when it's closed. And the coach says one thing, and he acknowledges it, what the coach says, and what he says is both players are holding, both players are holding, both players are holding. Basically, he's letting the coach know, I heard you, I know what you're thinking, but here's why both players are holding. And now the most important part is he gets the heck out of there. So, Doug, if you could go to my final slide. Second to final. So this is the 3-step approach that I think Mark did so brilliantly. And like I said, it gives me goosebumps because he didn't practice this. He didn't think about doing it this way. This was years of experience being in pressure situations and letting all those things I had in the early chart of human skills, conflict management, referee skills, game understanding, all coming together to one beautiful moment. So let's just define the steps, clearly state the desired behavior change. I think this is actually a template that we could think about. Here's what we can have. Make it human, get them to acknowledge, get them to answer an affirmative question where they shake their head, even if they're shaking their head that you're an idiot. Everyone else thinks that they're shaking your head because you got them to agree. Humanize it and get the acknowledgement and get out. And that's what Mark does so well. So I think we are at time. So let's go to the final slide. In summary, like I said earlier, this is a wonderful, wonderful thing we get to do in so many ways. having Joe on the call, having the people I've worked with tonight. That's what this is all about. It's years of networking and friendships. A lot of the people in the chat I know the names. There's a lot I don't know, so I hope I get to meet some of you in one capacity or the other. But this is something you'll never master, right? But practice and work the craft and master HR skills. Do your homework, accept the responsibility. You've taken the game, and you're the only one out there. You and your teammates are the only ones who can ensure that we have a positive environment for our games to play. And by doing this, I believe you service the game. So thank you so much. This has been fun. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon, and we'll see you on the field, hopefully.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much. What an amazing presentation. And if you're looking at the chat, you're seeing everybody saying thank you so much. I'll hand it off to Lance to close us out.
Oh, boy.
If not,
Well,
I can do it.
please do so, because I'm working on the survey here, so you caught me.
So you may have noticed Lance put a link in the chat. That's what he's busy doing. No problem, Lance. If you guys can click on that, take 5 minutes to fill out that survey. That helps us get a better sense of the types of content that you guys like to see, if this was helpful information, and any other recommendations you might have, as we are kind of working with the schedule and adjusting on the fly as we are in such an unprecedented time, and we're trying to get you guys the best education as we possibly can. So please fill out that survey. It means a lot to us. We look at it and we do take action on what you suggest. So thank you guys so much. A big thank you to Bill. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule. What an awesome presentation. And I love that you got into some of the real depths of the technical area with a unique perspective as a coach and a player yourself. So thank you so much for that. A big thank you to Never Ends Production, Doug and Lena. There you guys are. Hey!
Yay, teamwork.
Woohoo! For all that you guys do to help us keep this production rolling and moving very smoothly. So thank you guys so much. And for those, like I had mentioned on the start of the call, this was the 4th installment of our professional development series for the summer. So we had Ted, we had Alex, we had Mark, and now we had Bill. They will all be posted on YouTube. So you can go there and check them out, watch them at your leisure. If you missed them because of scheduling conflicts, no problem. We also have the NCAA rule changes series, which is super critical for us to be successful on the pitch, because the rules are not necessarily a lift of IFAB. So really important for us to understand the differences. So going into the season. So we have 4 segments. We've already done the first one, which is the overview. And you can see them here, the overview, and we talked about handball. So session 2 is coming up. That is this weekend, July 18th. We're going to talk about violent behavior and the changes to that, which is really critical, as well as video review. And there's some changes to that rule as well. So important for us to be aware of that. And then session 3, as you can see, there's restarts. While it might not be super sexy, it is super important for us to understand the restarts and the implications of how do we adjust our management and our positioning because of these new rules. So really important stuff there. And in the last session, session 4, will be a Q&A where you get to ask questions, and we'll have some open dialogue. After you've seen all the sessions, you can bring your questions to the 4th session, and we might have some giveaways as well. So highly encourage you all to take the time to attend those or watch those after the sessions. Please share them with your peers. It's important that we all are informed as we head into the season. And of course, Bill had mentioned fitness is a critical element of understanding the technical area and winning over coaches. Well, we have our fitness program that is going on right now with Coach Trent. So you have the opportunity every weekend. Lance only survived, I think, 1 session. Studying from it. But Coach Trent is helping us get fit every weekend. You can join him live on YouTube doing sessions, and we're distributing those weekly as well. So get fit and get ready for the season. And of course, the season is definitely something that is evolving. We've heard some new news that came out this week. So stay tuned. As everything starts, the dust settles, we will continue to communicate what the season might look like. But it's definitely a fluid situation, as you all are well aware. So again, our goal is to help make sure that you guys are fully prepared for the season whenever it may start. We strongly encourage you guys to participate in all these sessions, get the most out of these sessions as you can, engage. So thank you so much for attending and investing in yourselves to get better. So thank you again. We look forward to seeing you all in future sessions, maybe this weekend in our NCAA rule session. Okay? Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,